I work in the field of neuroscience and cognitive science, and in the field called, relatively new field called, called the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture. Just to briefly introduce where I work, for the last 18 years I've been at this institution called the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in Southern California, in La Jolla/San Diego. It's mostly concerned with basic research in biology, and as of recent I'm beginning to work at the University of California, San Diego, which is in the same city, just across the road from the Salk Institute, where the business of neuroscience and architecture, the business of connecting science and design, is easier to pursue because it's a big research university. It has all the departments that you may want for that: neuroscience, and psychology, and cognitive science, engineering, computer science, medical school, all the disciplines that may be interested in the question of how deep understanding of the human being from the point of view of neuroscience can help design disciplines broadly construed, including architecture proper, interior design, and landscape design,
real building?
Theory, history.
Real
yeah, this is called Geisel's real buildings, Geisel Library.
AI building.
Yeah. Geisel was the real name after Dr. Seuss. His foundation donated money for this library. So I'll tell you a little bit about this Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture, because I suspect most of you have not heard of it and have not even conceived the possibility of connecting this rather distant domain of neuroscience and architecture. To introduce, I just copied here the mission of the Academy. It has to do mostly with understanding how neuroscience transforms our understanding of the human being at multiple layers, to consciousness, to systems such as visual, acoustic, auditory system, motor systems, to level of neural networks, for example, or tissues, to the level of individual cells. How this understanding of multi-level structure of the human being can be used for better design. Now, I highlighted a couple of words here. In this mission of the Academy, they say the pioneers of that field, almost 25 years back, they were talking about how the profession of architecture could benefit from neuroscience. And they're talking about applications of neuroscience to design, as if it was a one-stream, one direction transfer of knowledge, as if scientists would come to designers and sort of preach to them, explain to them, etc. Now, after 20 years or so, as we enter what we may call the second generation of neuroscience for architecture, we understand that it's less of transfer of knowledge from one discipline to another, and more of two clusters of professions, two cultures working together in order to create something like a new culture, new discipline altogether. To make things concrete, very briefly, I would just say that in the center of the way I see this enterprise of neuroscience for architecture, we will place the concept of space as a sort of glue, a concept that is central to both neuroscientists and designers. And of course, space is a very broad concept, and it's represented differently in different languages and cultures. My favorite is this one, which I think is better understanding of space. If you can read this, it's a topos, which is the sort of topography and topology and everything that has to do with bounded openness, right? The concept of bounded openness is central to what we do. And in order to understand how to investigate space in this interdisciplinary arena, we want to start from the realization that the notion of space has a very different meaning in different disciplines, different cultures in our larger society. Very briefly, if we map out different concepts of space between what physicists do, physicists believe that they study the world in the observer-independent fashion. The world as it is, separate from human beings. It's the illusion that is entertained by physicists. On the other hand, we have socially constructed world, reality. Literary novel is a good example of that. Literary character, I don't know, think of your literary character. For you it may be a real being, but of course it's a fully constructed by imagination of the author. So space exists from the way it's studied by physicists in terms of metrics and distances, you know, the Euclidean, the Minkowskian, the Lobachevskian. This is the space of physics, to the space of a literary novel, right? The space of a novel, and some literary theories will tell you that the evolution of the novel is the evolution of concept of space. It's a longer story, but this is what they say. And between them, between this space without humans and the space fully constructed by humans, there is this perfectly human space studied by phenomenology, which is a study of how we are conscious of the world. And in between, if you want to study systematically, here are the sciences, right? Between physics, which is ultimate human independent science, and phenomenology, which is about human beings. We have physiology or neuroscience and psychology, right? There's a different concept of space altogether. And what's interesting is that they're very different from one another, even though they all call that entity, or whatever it is, they call it space. And on the other end, between phenomenology and poetics, right, between literary novel, we have instrumental concepts of space, instrumental in the sense of being a tool. Space is used as a tool and not as a medium. Getting closer to our topic, instrumental space of architecture is immersive because you are surrounded by space of architecture, or it is represented, as it happens in painting or cinema. They are all two-dimensional renderings of space. You look at it, you see virtual extended space, but of course it's not immersive in that sense. So in this world of connecting disciplines of neuroscience and architecture, understanding this progression, learning how to travel the spectrum of ideas is the way to go. And indeed it is a spectrum because as it happens for the light that helps us to see things, we humans are tuned to a very narrow band of lights. The rest is invisible. All this, all that, and all that is invisible. We are tuned to a particular class of, particular subset of wavelengths, just like that. In the world of concepts of space, by our professional deformation, as sociologists would say, we are attuned to only one subset of the spectrum of ideas of space. If you're a physicist, you think of space one way and only that way, and the rest is fiction or projection or a mistake, right? But if you're an architect, you think of space in a very different way. And the physicists, they have their abstractions which are mostly mistaken because the real space is here. So I will stop here and I pass baton to Sergey.
Thank you, Sergey, for great talk. Yeah, that's great. This is basically where I'm based. So in fact, I would like to start with a little bit longer story connecting both of us. So we met, I think, more than 20 years ago together at Riken in Japan, where we work on different kind of very different areas. So basically my theoretical physics, particles, stochastic dynamics, and Sergei worked on this psychophysics, interaction of people with space. But what we learned from this, there are lots of interesting topics we can do together. From that time, we started collaboration, and it's already more than 20 years. We keep collaborating, we're discovering something very interesting. But first of all, what I would like to say, I disagree with Sergei's vision of space very seriously. And when we are going to talk about how to apply AI for science and other fields, we can talk about this. And one of the beauty of AI for me, that it provides quite very different approach to science, and I'm going to mention in a second. Okay, now I already almost 20 years at Loughborough, so Loughborough is in the middle of the UK, so about 100 miles to London, 300 miles to Edinburgh, so very nice location. And this is how our campus looks like, this is our old building, and we have probably one of the largest campus in the UK. Loughborough is extremely famous for sport facilities, and we are now investing more and more in artificial intelligence. So we created sort of community of AI, which I led for some time, where we try to connect very different disciplines under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. This is basically our campus, as I already said. So it's the tallest building in Loughborough. We are somewhere physics, somewhere here. You can see this very long campus. We have a shuttle bus going from one part of the campus to another one. And I start from this because, in fact, okay, we are also good in terms of metrics. So Loughborough University is quite good university on the UK scale. We have different kind of metrics. For instance, 6 in Complete University Guide, 10 Guardians, 10 in Times Good University Guide, and so on. So we have quite large list of rewards, but we are very interested in international collaboration. For instance, one of my missions here, I try to build a link between Loughborough and Tongji. Tongji is absolutely wonderful university, and on top of this we have lots of interesting connections between Loughborough and Tongji. We have connection from physics, but we also have strong connection with architecture, Loughborough, and here we have connection with designs, we have connection with sport. Recently, Loughborough and Tongji we signed agreement for football. So potentially, if you are interested in sport, you can join this joint program and spend some time at Loughborough. But not only, I really would like to attract your attention for special kind of programs at Loughborough. The so-called MS Science. So you can have additional degree. After your first degree, you can go to England. It's just 1 year, and you can have another degree. So it's not long studying like here, it's just 1 year. It's 1 year master degree in physics, but we have across all topics, mathematics, physics, engineering, business, any of these, and you will have a second degree there, and I think it's quite interesting opportunity. So now I'm trying to negotiate some kind of adjusting of prices, because I know that students can't pay too much. So my goal would be try to decrease your tuition fee if you decided to join Loughborough for 1 year. It's also this special kind of course when you will have large research projects. So it's not only studies, it's large project related to research. Most of our graduates have research papers at the end of their 1 year at Loughborough. Now I would like to go back for our subject and would like to introduce AI for quantum physics. I think AI for quantum physics is extremely important. Why it is so? Because basically we can find several paradoxes which is real in quantum world, but it's absolutely impossible to understand from normal human perspectives. So AI for quantum physics could be a great tool. It could try to solve equations for us, it could try to use data to do some kind of predictions, but also it could mediate between us, very restricted in our human way to think, and the real world. Just a couple examples where AI can really help. Let's consider here a cat sitting in a box, and we have a molecule there which could be poisoned, but could not, but sometimes poisoned, sometimes not. And this depends on the structure of the molecule. There are lots of such kind of molecules. It's not just a dream. This is real situation. So we put that molecule in the box and the cat in the box simultaneously. We close the box, and after some time we will open the box, and depending if we have chemical reaction there, it could be poison and cat could die, unfortunately, or can be alive. Then I can ask you, when this happened? This happened when a molecule transform from non-poison to poison state and kill a cat, or when? The answer for physics work is absolutely incredible. It happens when you open the box. When you open the box, you see cat either alive or dead, but before you open the box, cat is simultaneously alive and dead. It's in so-called superposition state, because our molecule, it's not described by standard statistics in a quantum superposition state. It's not a poison, it's simultaneously a poison and not poison. And in fact, what happened when we open the box, we see we cat dead. So, using this, we have very, very strange questions. So, we have something now about, and we conclude something now about what happens in the past. So, we in fact change past when we open the box. And probably you have lots of science fiction about time machine. This sort of real time machine we can realize. Or maybe in quantum world there is no time at all. So how this can be resolved? And this is a very interesting question which probably AI could help. Because AI way to think is different from us. Another very famous example is so-called EPR paradox. But this is very simple. For instance, we have two balls, like here, red and blue. They're small enough. So this red and blue ball interacts, they're small, and they go away. And then in Alpha Centauri, very far in space, somebody catch a ball. When it catch a ball, it could be either red or blue. And this means that on another part of universe, the ball at this moment starts with red and blue. But they are far apart. How this information instantaneously propagate millions and trillions kilometers? It's much faster than speed of light. Can we have tachyons which traveling with such kind of speed? No, it's impossible. But in quantum mechanics, it is. And nobody, in fact, nobody knows the proper answer to this. There is some kind of explanation about this, but still this discussion going on. And this is very, very fundamental problem in physics. So even if you think that physics is known and everything already known, nothing, there is very basic stuff which is unknown, and on top of this contradict of our normal human understanding. Another and last example is just discussion between Einstein and Bohr. And the question was the following: what quantum mechanics is? Einstein believed that all this paradox we have is just because there is a real theory which we don't know. And we need to discover this, and then quantum mechanics would be just an approximation to reality. Bohr said not. It's not like this. We indeed don't know things simultaneously. We are not sure it's red or blue, it's simultaneously red and blue. So we have lots of such paradox. So I believe that that AI can help us to do both. And in fact, more and more physicists try to use AI. They try to use AI for the problems which is untractable for human brain. Sometimes we think that AI can help. For quantum physics, it can lead our understanding. And can be superhuman, because humans, we can't understand this. Because it's beyond our perceptual space what Sergei talking. It's definitely beyond. We can't even imagine what has happened there. But AI might, because it has different way of thinking. Okay, hopefully you're a little bit more interested in the topic of our discussion today. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Let me, if you don't mind, introduce myself too, since some people here don't know who I am. And also in the same way I can introduce my esteemed colleagues here. So my name is Kostas Terzidis. I was a professor in Harvard, then I came to China. Question is, why on earth you want to come to China? Well, I'll tell you why. Because China is a place that respects me. They gave me a green card. They gave me they respected me, so I respect them too. They gave me the Manoli Award. They asked me about my opinion about the future. Then they asked me about what do I want to get, what is my problem so I can help me. It's a wonderful place to be. They also put me on TikTok. I got almost about 500,000 people. I have no idea how is that possible because I'm talking about philosophy and then all of a sudden people like it. I mean, very, very interesting. And then of course we did all kinds of things. Basically China is a we culture, okay? Not an I culture like America. It's not about the iPhone, it's about the WeChat, okay? That's very important. So what we do here, together with my friend here, Filippo, we do something called AI art, okay? That is basically some sort of again, art is not AI art, it's different things, okay? Because of the art, you have a agency, you act on your own will. In AI, something mediates between you and the thing that you want to do, and that is basically very, very different than what we have been used to, where actually quantum comes into the conversation here. This was a big, what was it, a factory basically, a power plant, something like that they actually gave it to us to make it into a AI art gallery. And research and education, and blah, blah, blah. And together with Filippo, we put it together. It was a big space. We did a lot of conferences. We were very happy. We were in the magazines, very famous. That's the one thing that we did together. Kids AID is another one, which is basically, Kids Aid is basically AID, AI design. We want to teach kids, or we want to find from kids, how they understand AI. Because in a way, kids are very, very AI-ish. Because they play with toys. And toys are AI. They're objects, they're intelligent, artifacts, and somehow they understand, they put themselves into these things, and that is something very important for us. Here they are, we do a lot of workshops, but basically we study them. How do they think? How do they understand the world? How do they make things? How do they make games? How do they pretend? How do they perform in class? This is very, very important things in the world that's coming up, because we're actually going to be away from the old paradigm of teaching, the old paradigm of behaving. We're going to get into a meta behavior, which these kids would be the pioneers in this world. So we do concepts, we do logic, again, philosophical things. Those kids are very, very logical. Okay? They don't have knowledge, but they're very logical. And they have no biases. That's very important because they can answer very heavy philosophical questions that we ourselves cannot because we're biased. Code, they write a little code, it's a very basic code. They do mythology, I'm Greek, Italian, Chinese, the best people to ask, or Russians too. Myth, we do games, not game playing, game making, which is different. We do storytelling, deep fakes, you name it. Here's the students working, all kinds of students, all kinds of different work they do. We wrote a whole book for that with the Fab Lab. Here they are, graduation. 150 schools or normal schools decided that they want to adopt this program, so it's a big thing, because they're going to put it under the general education umbrella, AI for kids, for the Chinese kids. That's a big thing. I think for the whole world, why not? I mean, the thing we talk about is very universal. Okay. And AI design is another area that we work with. Filippo, we have papers. You can see my name with Filippo, always second or first, depending on who's writing the paper. Right? Yeah, it depends on who is the deal, what the quantum,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. And then these are papers, more papers. I do something called permutation, which is an interesting area because I'm interested in the idea of mathematics, which is related to permutation, like how you take multiple things and you put them together.
The two Sergei could be interested in this paper here.
Well,
Go back.
yeah, this one over here.
No, network.
That's a heavy mathematical. Look, a bunch of people here.
And this other.
Yeah. I'm different. I didn't much. I didn't do much, but I'm in this paper.
But you
You
worked
did a
on the
lot.
other one.
Yeah, the other one. I want to take credit for it. So anyway, permutation is basically putting things together, combinatorials, and you can actually put a lot of things together and make a design. So I thought design is basically a combination of things. Again, in a very, very kind of like strict way, anything you make, any building you make, is basically pieces you put together. You can put it in many different ways. but all possible ways, in which way you have like all the possible combinations of something, and that is something very strange because you go through everything. And that is, and then after that, you get those billions of possibilities and you have to extract. So I use neural networks to extract. So I basically go from the opposite side. So making something, I extract from everything and from everything something. That's kind of the area. So do fashion, which is combinatorial. We do cooking, which is combinatorial. We do music. We do architecture. We do furniture, art, etc. So basically, we have a good time in Shanghai with my friend here and all my friends. So this is basically who I am, just so you know. Okay. All right. Good. So that being said, we.
You forgot to say something.
What did I say? Forgive me.
How much we find?
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll find out. Okay. So let me get back the slide of the.
You're in superposition stage, you're fighting
Yes.
and being together.
So this is the panel here, and the question is which one is real and which one is fake. I'm just playing games here.
Yeah, both fake.
Or both mine.
Yeah.
I made it. I claim here now that I was the one, the author, the agent, the person who made these things, okay?
Use AI to create.
Anyway, so let's go. So this is,
Okay.
yeah.
So I would like to start with the question, both of you. Yes,
Press one.
Face the media, face the,
I stay here. No, here, because otherwise I block the video.
no, then you're interrogating us.
I'm interrogating. So, the title of this panel is exactly AI tool or mediation. You have been, both of you, speaking about the role of AI. You made a very specific point. You said space from an architectural point of view is not a mediator, is not a mediation, it's a medium, right? But the question is very related to something we discussed in our course, Design Ethics, because technologies are not just tools, are not just proxies, are not just executors. They shape our lives. Think about the invention of the clock, the invention of the microscope, the invention of the phone, and so on. So they are not passive objects, they are active objects. Even an hammer, in some sense, orients, guides, constrains our life. Because it gives us a set of possibilities, for instance, for fixing a nail against the wall. The question is about AI, and in general about your research. How technologies, and here I'm very much influenced by two philosophers, respectively Thomas Kuhn and Paul Feyerabend. How technologies shape the concept of evidence. What is evidence as soon as technologies changes? And I think why I was speaking about Kuhn and Feyerabend, because at the very end, evidence, the fact, what the scientists define the facts, right? Mm-hmm. Evidence is theory-laden. Theory-laden. And I think that some of this theory comes as well from the kind of experiments that you devise through technology. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the second part of the question is, okay, what about AI? Because AI has a level of complexity which is not comparable to a hammer or to a clock and so on.
Sure. I can start if you like. For physics, definitely technology is a critical component for science. think about light. So for a very, very long time, people believe that light propagates instantaneously. We just switch on light and we have light everywhere, but this is not so. And it was possible to measure only when we have special kind of technology able to detect so huge speed, right? And because of speed is finite and people even manage to measure speed propagating in different directions and to see that speed is always the same, we change all concept of physics. We go from concept developed in this time, then we have space. Time is exactly the same everywhere to relativity, the time is changes, time can go faster, slower, so it's changed all our concept. So sometimes in that sense, I disagree with you, technology could and experiment could lead to change a concept. It's not only theory-led, but could be opposite. Having said this, we have quite a lot of examples when our theory lead to understanding, completely different understanding of what world around us. Just example.
Actually, I was speaking just about one side of the problem, but there is the other side. You are right. I mean, because you have the subject on one side, the object on the other side, in the middle, technologies. And technologies change at the same time. The object, but the subject as well. Our conceptualizations of the world, of the reality. So sorry for the interruption.
And for instance, I think the biggest time for physics was about 1920 to 1940, when we discovered all of these particles which not exist even before. Antimatter, which we cannot experience at all in our real life. And when we go far beyond of what we have now, and currently with AI technology we really can make a huge step forward. Because again, quite a lot of concept now is so controversial that it's extremely hard to understand for human mind. And AI is definitely strong enough to help us. So I wouldn't just say AI is tool mediation. It also could be competitor. AI could compete with us in understanding quantum world, or in understanding the world around us, or in understanding space. Why? Because we have probably what Sergey probably will talk about. Because we have our perception is very, very limited. Correct. We cannot see atoms. We cannot see light outside of what Sergey said, outside of visual spectrum. For analyzing all of this, we need technology, and we need now understanding, because we can't not only measure, we can't even understand what we measure without probably artificial intelligence.
I understand. Sergey, number 2.
These are fantastic questions. I'm here representing science, but maybe I should play the philosopher, because before I can answer the question of how technology mediates between the actor and the world, we want to understand what the technology is, right? And if we talk about that in the context of tool and media, what the heck are those, right? On one's definition, hammer is a tool. On some other's definition, it's not a tool, right? Or as a certain other philosopher, Martin Heidegger, would have it, right? Hammer is a tool for as long as it operates as it's supposed to, but the moment it breaks, it draws attention to itself and it becomes something other than the tool.
Do you remember people from my course you mentioned just now, Heidegger? Okay?
Yeah. So this the trouble that I have right away in trying to answer this question is that I can pretend to understand the meaning of these terms, of technology, medium and tool, but really I do not. And that would take us to a concept that I would think will be most useful to mediate between these kinds of misunderstandings, mistakes, errors that we could make in the course of this discussion, is the notion of horizon, the limit of what we can see in the literal sense, or boundary of an understanding in more general sense. The same entity could be a tool or medium or technology depending on who you are. Because as human beings, we are always placed, we are always somewhere, we always have a point of view, and as soon as you have a point of view, you find yourself in a topos, place, bounded openness, and that boundaries are always there. They always limit what you can see, what you can think, what you can understand. It's inevitable. So these boundaries would make the space. So part of your question, responding to what I said before, space is naturally medium, right? You move through it. It doesn't resist in itself, right? It's a medium. They may be prototypical, paradigmatic, the parade case of medium. But architects will tell you it's space. We design with it. Designers will tell you we design with it, right? An important theorist in 20th century architecture, Italian, Bruno Zevi, wrote this book, which has a different name in Italian, but in English translation, it's called Architecture as Space, right? So the medium becomes an instrument. So this is the sort of caveats that I see in trying to answer the question, but getting to the question, the notion of evidence, right? Evidence is really very important here because anything that I say could be used as evidence for judging whether I'm correct or making a mistake, right? And in this discipline of neuroscience for architecture, as an example, the concept of evidence becomes absolutely central because architects are drawn to science because of that concept of evidence. They believe that science, being objective, producing correct answers to all sorts of questions, and it's done through the mechanism of evidence. And they have this concept, which is very fashionable, evidence-based design, which is a complete fallacy, I must say, because as we know from medicine and other disciplines that bring science and sort of practical concerns together, there's no such a thing as evidence-based medicine. Just like there is no evidence-based medicine, there is no and will never be evidence-based architecture. So the concept of evidence is treacherous in that sense. Maybe I will stop here.
No, I would like to say something more about the concept of evidence in architectural design.
Please.
No, you.
I'm
asking you.
Yeah, I thought you want to say something about this. So evidence in architectural design, the issue is that if you create evidence-based discipline like medicine, the ideals, aspirations of medicine to be evidence-based. Of course, you want your doctor to make decisions about your health based on evidence, not on his opinion or his idiosyncratic judgment on the spot. But as you look at the practice of doctors, evidence is really present in certain decisions, but it cannot be applied in making medical decisions about you because scientific evidence exists in the format of having these variables present in the experiment leading to this particular conclusion, right? Result of an experiment. Given the great number of variables in the situation, all the parameters of your body, which is a very large number, we are high-dimensional beings, and given a great number of medical preparations, certain remedies that they could give you, it's practically impossible to scientifically to produce every combination of certain medication and certain parameters of the human being, right? Naturally, the medical doctor, the decision maker, is taking a little bit of evidence that he has, a few points in this high-dimensional space. I'm talking about thousands of dimensions, right? Out of this infinity of possibilities, practically speaking, he's taking a few points that are produced by medical science and makes decisions on which your life may depend tomorrow.
Heuristics.
Can I just...
Heuristics, rules of thumb.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we get from what we want, evidence-based medicine, we get to medicine which is driven by heuristics, by generalizations, by speculations. And those are not governed by scientific process, unfortunately.
Shortcuts.
Yeah.
I slightly disagree with you. In fact, all our science is probabilistic story. Quantum mechanics is completely probabilistic, but in principle, almost all are part of very, very strict mechanics probabilistic. So basically, when medical doctors try to get out of this, we can say that they suggest you certain treatment based on probability. Effectively, you cannot say it cannot apply for you because you are unique.
Sergey, what we are saying makes the situation even worse, because so-called scientific result produced by a scientific study published in an important paper, it's a result of a probabilistic process.
Okay.
So it makes the situation much worse, let me say. Even based on the results of experiments, you cannot predict outcome of this treatment to this particular paper. We will give you this very safe medicine based on the probability of failure of 0.005, and you will, I'm sorry to say, pass tomorrow.
Yeah, fine, but if they create not one me, but hundreds of me, then probably 90 of me can benefit and
Right.
10 can die. Fine.
But
what I can do with this?
But I'm one, right?
This is the problem.
If I may intervene here, just for the sake of, I think I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that what you say is correct, no doubt, but in the world of AI, the bad news is these things don't work because the definitions have changed drastically. You say evidence, and you assume the human evidence, the ones that we have used to, things that are, I guess, evidence on either science or even a court of law. You say evidence. This is that's how I prove that it's the truth, right?
Right.
The question is, what is the truth? If the truth is not what we thought, so the evidence is basically shifted now from something else we're looking into. So again, back to Filippo's question about the tool. Again, of course, AI is not a tool because it's out of control. Okay, the control of something makes it into a tool.
Yeah.
The moment you break it or you don't have it or you don't control it, it's not a tool. So if it's not a tool, it's something else. The question is, what is it? And this is where everything starts to shift. Then everything becomes different because our understanding of the world in a Kuhnian way, I mean, paradigm shift, so much that it's basically, it's not about the world changing, which is what Kuhn evidenced, like, oh, now we go from the industrial to the whatever, the postmodern, the meta, but I'm the observer to this world, right? But what if that is inside of me? What if it happens inside of me? Who is going to evidence the changes in me when I'm the one who's observing myself? In the same way that, in physics, there's a famous example where when you see something, it behaves differently, that the protons behave differently when you don't see them.
Exactly.
So, but how do you know?
Yeah,
Because you're the one who is the one, when it affects you as a self, the whole thing starts shifting.
This is huge philosophical question.
I
This
know,
is
I know,
one of
I
the
know.
most unsolvable questions in quantum mechanics.
But it involves evidence.
This involves evidence.
The observations.
Yeah. But I would like also discuss, Sergey, a little bit with you stuff. If you care about, let's consider standard diffraction of electrons. So we have electrons, and then we measure how they put, and they have weight. If you ask me a question, what happens with particular experiment, and said that I care about this electron, not about electrons' statistical distribution of this electron. Of course, there is no evidence, nobody can predict this. So in that sense, when doctor doing something for you, he or she, they should consider ensemble of Sergey, not unique Sergey.
Exactly, it's part of the problem.
It is part of the problem.
Yeah.
And if we look at this, it's not only architecture, not only medicine, it's everywhere. And with AI, we know that everything probabilistic, everything. So you cannot say exact answer to anything. You can do it with some probability.
Yeah.
So it's a general question, it's not problem with architecture.
Kostas,
Yes.
speaking now for
Yes.
a second, I think I have a question to you.
Yes.
What is evidence from the point of view of AI?
Of AI?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we did a whole lecture on that. Well, first, one of the interesting parts of evidence was the human side and how the human starts to deteriorate into this like unknown field of who are we. And one of the examples I was giving in the class is this sort of a big, it was a court, a trial between the actors, two big famous actors, right? What's the name of this guy?
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp and the wife, right? And they're trying to find who is right and who's wrong, right? And the problem is that you're interviewing in the court two actors, right, which are supposed to take the truth and twist it, right? So how are you going to find the truth when the actors are the ones who are in the stands, right? So you go, okay, fine, we cannot find it because, she is so good in pretending that she's been, molested, and he's so good in saying that I'm an innocent guy, and they're so like, you fall in love with the way that they talk, right? And so the evidence is not anymore, the evidence as in the verbal evidence. Then you go into the second stage, okay, well, let's go into the witnesses, but they're also actors. So we got a problem now. We cannot get the truth because the truth is like hidden in the pretension of the thing, right? And then we go into the actual evidence, the things, the physics, the picture, the camera, the WeChats, whatever. How do we know that is real? That could actually be modified and altered from the point of view of the AI. You can actually go. So you have no way of finding the truth, right? In the real world, that's what it is.
It's worse than that cat.
In the real world.
Kostas, may I ask you in that case, can we do just voting? So to start voting, so basically we'll have 2 points of view. So one person can say, okay, this is an apple, it should go down. Another person said, no, it should be up. And then we can decide, is it go down or not by voting. To some extent, what AI doing is just voting.
Yeah, but the question is, who is making the judgment? You? Who are you then? The problem is not in the evidence, the problem is in the subjectivity of the evidence. We're observing the problem. It's not about the objectivity on the field. Okay, yeah, fine, there is something going on in the world, but who is the one who makes the judgment? Who is the one who says, why do we trust you that what you said is true?
No, not me, voting. We are going to vote across the whole room. Let's hand up.
So
if an apple goes down,
popularity becomes evidence?
Yeah. And to some extent, AI is exactly doing the same.
Then certain politicians wouldn't be voting because, based on evidence, on the voting.
Yeah, which is exactly,
Yeah.
So we can say that we elect the president based on voting, assuming that he vote more, it's better than to vote less.
Yeah, but what is the point of evidence? You want to find the truth. That's the reason we have evidence.
No, it's not existing.
Oh, you want it for the sake of evidence? No, that's fine.
Yeah, but AI is doing exactly the same. What I would like to say, it's just voting. AI is voting.
Voting could be an evidence. I mean, a mediation.
Popularity. One moment. Professor Shi would say one word.
Yes.
I enjoyed this conversation so much. And the conversation goes 180 miles per hour. I would like, I'm very glad that I don't miss this conversation. Comes to evidence. I think evidence goes to your diagram. There's a physical side of evidence and a social side of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So it even goes to your example of developing medicines. Taking few points of the evidence and it comes back to your situational truth. And even to say you have few points of evidence, those few points of evidence are also situational based on what you believe. And evidence is just to say a patient is cured by the medicine. The concept of the cure is situational.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I enjoyed this conversation so much. And also goes back to the last concept you discussed, technology. Technology itself is not something alone sit outside of social context.
Mm-hmm.
There is a definition of technology, depends which is called technology. It's about how people use technology. That is a form of technology. Just want to jump into that.
What transpires in this conversation is that the concept of evidence doesn't exist in vacuum, right? It's a vehicle for decision making, and when whatever entity is making decisions, could be the person, medical doctor, architect, or AI, that entity has prior beliefs. So the process of using evidence in the context of technology and not is always going along this chain, whatever evidence is, it always clashes with prior beliefs. It's never empty, tabula rasa that receives information, and out of this clash, there is a mechanism of decision making. It could be by voting, by the way, political election of presidents or parliaments was practiced in different times in our history through this mechanism of sortition. It's called sortition when you select random person from the population, meeting certain criteria of age and mental capacity, but it has been practiced. So whatever mechanism you use for making decisions, single person, voting, it's always the case that you have this evidence arriving into the state of belief, and out of that comes the decision. It's not about
but let's say you have a medical diagnosis, right? You go to the doctor, they tell you like, this is your problem, right? Then you put it on AI, it gives you like a different one, which is very good. And then you have voting. So where's my problem? Is it the problem that the doctor said, which I don't know? Is it the AI who give me like a very good, or is the what people think, like the voting, the opinion of like my grandmother and other people? This is three different positions, one of which is not even a human.
But
that is very, that's interesting.
In case of medicine, actually, it has been studied. It's called like a crowdsourcing. So they take groups of doctors, and instead of asking one doctor to make a decision, it could be done with the help of AI, but they ask multiple doctors. And then the question is how to make decision based on evidence presented, votes presented by different doctors, right? So it has been actually.
AI is crowdsourcing. AI is basically getting all the internet information and then kind of like processing through a neural network to come up with a decision, which actually would be the conglomerate, the epitome of all the doctors coming and asking, which is a crowdsourcing in a way, but filtered through an AI system.
It's very important.
Which could have a bias in it if we don't know how it's been done. In the crowdsourcing, you can actually say, okay, the people who do the crowdsourcing could actually affect the decision making in this or that direction. In the case of AI, the neural network, the people who want the neural network could actually twist the weights to go in this or that direction.
Decision criterion.
Yes, but the problem, the difference is what I'm trying to bring up, and this is where the AI comes in, is that it's not human. This evidence, this information, this observation is coming from something that doesn't have an agent, doesn't have a human. We cannot blame it. We cannot say like, what if you tell them to show you?
Me too.
I don't think it's.
AI is very, very human, much more than what we think.
It is human as a production of human knowledge, but when it comes to the actual thing itself, it's a system, it's a thing. It's something that actually, things that move around, and somehow they make sense, as if they're human. But we cannot talk about a human.
I disagree also. I agree.
You're in minority.
I don't know.
So this
The vote is
wrong. Because we have no idea what, in fact, intelligence is. And the naive way, when we have very complex system, and in physics, what I know from basic physics, when we have more, even very simple agents, but a lot, we can have so-called emergent phenomena. And intelligence, in fact, this is emergent phenomena. And to be honest, biological presence not really necessary. I don't think even that future for humankind could be based only on biological humans. It could be more and more machine, and this is nothing wrong with this. It's just a different way of thinking. We probably will help us to understand quantum physics much, much better than we can.
So where does the human side come in? Prove your point, okay? You make it that I'm...
So let's try to slow down. Let's try to slow down. We are going too fast. First of all, philosophically speaking, I agree with Saveliev. So from my point of view, we are talking about evidence. Therefore, we are talking about truth. You were speaking about truth, right? From a philosophical point of view, science is an intersubjective effort. And the truth is assessed intersubjectively. And I think we can agree about this, right? Because otherwise the concept of truth listening to you disappears.
Well, go ahead.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I think is not correct from a philosophical point of view. It's even not correct from an ethical point of view. We need truth from an ethical point of view.
But
And
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to
Subjective.
be.
It's just one point of view.
Yeah.
It isn't a subjective.
Yeah,
Just a comment, I'm sorry to interrupt.
okay,
Yeah.
second comment. Okay. Second point about AI. AI is very, very human.
Define human.
It-
We're using terms that are very...
Humans define, humans means you and me, right? Define the topology, define the model, define the data set. We basically define indirectly the outcome of AI. And important, very, very important, we can curate even the data set. We can curate the data set. And actually, you get the best results to the extent that you curate the data set. This is the human intervention. I'm not saying it's totally human, but I don't agree with you when you say it's something else from human.
Okay, so even the case of human, like me, I'm not the same as I
Now we
was.
start to fight.
Yeah, I'm not the same as I was before I was introduced to certain things that AI does to me, to my behavior, right? It affects my understanding of my subconscious understanding of the world, okay? So I would say like 1 year ago, I had certain concepts about things and certain understandings about the world because it's based on me as my physical, let's say, biological understanding. Then, by going into AI and looking at videos and certain things and certain information and actually falsifying things that I thought were true, I have affected me so much that now I'm a different person. Is this still me? Because there was something that was not human, or I would call it, it was evident, things that are like affecting my own understanding. Like I see things or like say situations that happen in a video that is so realistic that I believe it's true. Even though my eyes see it and I believe that's true, my brain says it's not true, but it affects me so much that I think that that's not, so I believe that this dream that I saw is
You
true.
remember, we were speaking a lot about this issue. I mean, technologies, we invent technologies, and technologies invent us at the same time.
No, but if I do a dream, then it's my dream. But if the dream is made by somebody else that affects me, then it's not my dream anymore, because it comes from external.
Let me ask one question. You think humans is about individuals? Or
Sorry?
humans? So basically human is a single person or human is a global? To some extent what now is going on, we have quite a lot of animals where there is no, in reality, exists a single animal. Everything spread across our population. And just whatever, bees or ants, right? There is not properly exist individuals. Do you think in humankind, human is referring to a single person, or it's something global, or there is no human related?
We are social, we are political animals, like Aristotle said. We are like basically we're connected with other people, but we never had the chance of looking in something that behaves like human, but it's not. That's the problem. Okay, I don't disagree with you. Of course, all the things you say is true, but there is something that emerges right now that is not human in the sense of existing inside a traditional biological kind of like, or even social context. It's something different. That's what I'm trying to bring up. That is a mediation in a way. It's and that affects our way of behavior. In a way, that's the problem that I see. But again, maybe why not?
I just wanted to add to this very interesting question of what is human versus humanity. There's a perfect example of horizontality, right?
Oh, sorry?
Horizontality. Being somewhere to make decisions about which...
Horizontality.
Yeah, it's It's a concept used in phenomenological philosophy. It was
From Husserl.
Husserl is most famous
Yes.
about horizon,
Horizon, yes.
horismus, horizon, horizontal. So we are horizontal because we always, as I said, we always bound. So the problem there is that, of course, we could say human being, right? It's a single body here. I'm a human being. This is my body, with my cloth or with not, right? This is a part of my body or not. These are boundary conditions. But generally, it's clear that I am a separate being. But this is just an illusion that we experience as individuals, because naturally, everything that we can do, what we know about ourselves, is produced in interaction with the environment and with other humans. It is an illusion because I can sort of move independent of objects, of chairs, but everything I can do is produced alone in the interaction. So it is always, it's like a fabric of, like a tissue connects in the person, whatever it is, with the environment, whatever it is. It's just there is different degrees of strength of these connections, and this is exactly the question of what the medium is. There was, of course, in philosophy of perception, philosophy of language, there were debates of what makes an object and what makes a medium, right? And the answer to this question is, to put it simply, it's in the degree of coordination. So molecules of air, for example, are not coordinated strongly, they move easily relative to one another, which is why air makes a good medium for objects that have stronger coordination. I propel my body from air, and air for me is medium because the molecules are moving, allowing me to propel myself through it. Similarly, you could think of language as a medium, not language but written, say written language. Because letters, we are talking about phonetic languages, right? Not pictographic or hieroglyphic languages. In phonetic, like English or Hebrew, letters move independent of one another, just like molecules of air, which is why written language makes a good medium. A body, a meaning of a word propagates through the language, whereby letters being quickly moving relative to one another, conforming to the form of the idea, just like molecules of air moving to conform to the shape of my body. So the medium becomes this general concept of elements coordinated to different extent. And here we could answer the question, back to where we started, tool or medium, it's exactly the degree of coordination. When you think of AI as an entity in itself, speaking to you out of a box of whatever silicon or whatever material is used, it looks like a tool. But because it is a large language model, it's linguistic, it's letters or concepts learned to coordinate in a particular way, of course it is also a medium. Ideas that are generated not by this box, but by humanity at large, they propagate through this box in order to speak to me. It is, of course, a medium. So depending on what position I take,
So I have,
it is both.
so I have a sentence that I like, okay, and I cut it in pieces as words, and then I put it on the window, and open the window, when it falls onto the floor, and a new sentence comes out, which is better than the one I had. Who wrote that sentence? Question.
Well, because you're looking for agency, right? You're asking a question.
Well, I mean, that's the most important
Yeah,
thing.
it's looking for agency.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
yes.
Yeah. Any combination you could think of, you could look for meaning of it because you are a meaning-seeking creature. That's
So
the question.
so the wind is the one who made the sentence.
If you do it once,
The medium is the air.
You did
Who created the sentence.
You did this by asking the question.
if you do it once, it happened, the God or the wind. If you do it thousands of times, then it comes to one good sentence, you did it.
But the sentence doesn't exist there. What falls down on the floor
How do you know?
exists as a
How do
sentence.
you know that the
only
sentence
for-
doesn't know
Yeah,
that
no.
it's actually making sense?
But according to what we know about language, it requires a mechanism of comprehension, right? And
But
you have
if
the
an
power.
AI does it, then we are okay now. Right? The AI does it, we can actually, we can, in a way, scientifically explain the fact that it actually makes sense, right? Because it's a machine, it's something we did. But the wind is not. What's the difference between the two? It's the same thing, the same sentence.
I think there's no difference because it exists in you and not in the sentence.
No, I mean,
Because you are
I'm the one who's
but-
going to do it, but somebody made that sentence, which I could not be able to do, because I made the sense in the first one, right? I said like I thinking I did it, right? And then the wind blew and it became better than what I thought before. So like, this is better than what I thought. I mean, I agree that this is not what I thought. So somebody else did that. If it's not me,
Right.
well, the mistake comes in, and the mediation. So the question is, who did it?
But so
The wind, or the, so if it was in a neural network, we would blame it on the AI. And then again, what's the difference between the two?
Both understanding and blaming is performed by
Yeah.
you.
So, yeah, well, let me comment also.
Who made it? Who created it? Because we're designers, we make these kind of things.
You ask me this question.
Yeah.
It all comes out of you.
We can say like this, the second answer, who cares?
Sorry.
It's
Who cares?
Who cares? It's created. So to some extent, Sergey, you are becoming proper quantum physicist. So this is exactly what is going on. What is electron and what is wave function? What is electromagnetic light and what is a photon? Basically, individuals in physics, deeply in physics, and community is the same to some extent. And it depends how you look at this. If we discussed with electrons, if you ask about specific electrons, yes, with individual, but it still belongs to the same wave function.
The population.
It cannot be removed. To
Yes,
some extent, as a proper quantum physicist, I can say we are all of us is the same body, because we are all belongs to the same wave function. Right, so to some extent, your approach to medium and individuals and the body is standard. This is first quantum problem people start to ask.
It's not my idea, I just
With duality, quantum duality, what you in fact saying.
That's exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Okay, sorry, one more. Time is running away, but I must say, as a professor here in Tongji, this is the kind of discussion that Kostas and me would like to have in our classrooms during our lectures.
You know me too.
This is exactly the kind of discussion that we would like to have, and we enjoy it. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. I mean, this workshop, this panel is a challenge for you as well.
We fight or sometimes we pretend to fight. We see them better. You know? That's the best part.
I think
We fight really.
comes back to that question. So I gave you one answer. Another answer I would give is depends on whether you are expecting a good sentence or not. You don't need to have an intention, but if you are expecting a good sentence, you did it.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's appreciation of it, yeah. Yeah.
So
It is,
The
it is if you want it to be.
Yeah.
Or it's,
I think I follow what you just said. I think I enjoyed this very much too, and this is why we are good friends. And that's why I would, for you guys,
So now it's your time, I would say.
as
So,
I was as a participant, now as a dean, I would like to say I would hope to have both Sergey as part of our college sometime, some form. Should we do that? And also, I think this conversation is very philosophical, but this is the class so far for my last few years at Tongji, the most focused class. Which means it's really good. I enjoyed it, you all enjoyed it. Even though you may not follow everything you talk about, especially when the concept moves from one to another. Whenever the concept comes out, you all disagree with each other. What do you mean human? What do you mean technology?
Yes.
What do you mean this and that? I think that that's exactly what philosophy is all about. Challenges your perceptions. It's not trying to confuse you, but when it challenges your perception, it moves your understanding of something from a determinate state of understanding to an indeterminate situation. So that's when you begin to know, to see, to know new things. I think that is wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Let me just add one very last thing. What I really would like from students in terms of what I notice, you are not sometimes asking questions.
He's gonna start
Please,
asking
this is good. Yeah, this is good. I already challenged. Yeah, but I really
questions.
suggest asking question is a key part of your education. Just if you don't believe what I'm saying, just ask me.
You're running too fast.
But there was a question.
So this is the moment of asking questions from your side.
Yeah, the question. Yeah. No matter what. No, he's not gonna answer.
Oh, he is very good in asking questions.
I'm going to think about it first.
Okay, you think your question.
Yes.
I had a question about Professor Gepstein's point about the linguistic part. Also, it is true that we see the sentences and it's usually comparing from the letters. The letters are pre-made or made by human beings in order to some kind of thing so we can understand the meaning of those words. But we also have some kind of philosophical theories like the semiotics, neither Ludwig Wittgenstein, yes, thank you, which is getting mostly on the biases of people about some words and about their context, but also he have some parts about the context where this word's used. So my question to all the professors is, do you think that actually AI tool or mediation based on the context where it used, not actually the core of the AI itself?
Beautiful question.
Beautiful question. Yes.
Well, it depends on the horizon, on the context. So what you said, based on the use, right? It's exactly based on the horizon. In one context, it's a medium. In another case, it's the tool, and it cannot be otherwise, as a matter of fact.
But can it be like a cut of Schrödinger?
It's both. It is both. It is exactly. It's where hermeneutic. So when I talk about horizontal thinking, the term comes from phenomenological philosophy, but in modern philosophy or conceptual frameworks or history of ideas, it's called philosophical hermeneutics. It's a discipline in itself, and it has this quality. Depending on horizon, you have different states or concepts that we discuss: what is truth, what is subjectivity, what is human. All these different answers are correct at the same time, just like in quantum physics.
Yes.
It depends on who you ask, and different perspectives. It's not like physics. Space of physics is better concept of space than the space of architects or poets, right, or mathematicians. They're all correct at the same time because in different contexts, completely different answers on the same question will be each correct.
I totally agree. And in fact, that's very, very beautiful stuff. For instance, if you can say that 2 + 2 is 4, this is also partly correct. Because I can write, even mathematically, such kind of things. And I showed Sergei, which you said is positive, and in the end it will be negative. And basically, the same answer could be different, from different aspects you can have different answers. It's absolutely right.
So I did this experiment once, and this is very interesting because it uses AI, but it uses also something called permutations. And the idea was that I had a sentence, right? And there was 8 letters in it, 8 words in it. And I liked that sentence a lot. It was a very interesting sentence. So I took it into all the possible combinations, which is 8 to the power of 8, because there are 8 words in there. It was like 16 million possible combinations, out of which most of them were completely ridiculous because the syntax didn't work. But again, what is syntax? Something very objective. It's very logical. So you know that subject, object, verb, they work in a certain way. So you can eliminate 99% of them because they just basically make no sense, right? But of the 1% that is left, you have a bunch of sentences that make sense, okay? Some of which could be of a value. Now, how do you evaluate that? So you have, let's say, 10,000 sentences, right? One of which is the one that I actually wrote, because the space of possible permutations is limited, right? That's it. You cannot have more space because you don't have any words. So how are you going to find that sentence in that? So you basically make a neural network, you train it in the way that you think. Like it reads things that you read similar things, you train it, and then you go through that, and that selects one sentence or a series of sentences, like, these may seem interesting to you. And you read them, one is better than one you wrote. Okay, so now we have 2 problems. One is that you are using a machine that is simulating supposedly you as a neural network to select something. And the second part is that you are in a conundrum because the sentence you're going to get, there's no better sentence than that. Once you find the sentence, because you have gone through all the possible sentences in the world. So the one that is better than yours, if you cannot find, it means there is nothing better than yours. But if you find, that means that this sentence is better than yours. So the question is, how is that possible? How can you exceed yourself in this context? And I'm just trying to put it in the context of, like, it's not that simple when you work with AI. It's not like, oh, I just inspired, or like I had this dream and now I wrote this new sentence, right? So I am the one who's responsible for the writing of the sentence because of my dream, or because of my inspiration, because of my conversation over here. This is a very logical, mathematical, and sentence that produces a new sentence. And the question is, that is language being used in a very different way than we are used to. So Wittgenstein doesn't work, okay? That's gone. All the phenomenology, gone. Because nothing of that has anything to do. It's mathematics and AI. And that makes philosophy, or whatever, a sentence. Which again, we are the ones who evaluate it. I have no doubt about that. But again, beyond that, we are not able to make new sentences anymore. Because this sentence was made by a machine without us being able. Like, AI makes things better than us, better than any human being. Right? So who is the one who makes them? Still us?
I think yes. For the simple options that you need the sentence, and you actually use the final evaluation of it. So without your need of the sentence and without your evaluation, is it better than yours? There is no actual rating of AI doing something better than you do.
Yeah, but this is kind of like selfish. Like, I am the one who makes the judgment, so therefore I'm the one who actually judges the better results for myself. Yeah, true. You're the one who actually is the judging.
You provided the date, letters.
Suppose it's
You are
not
the one
letters. Suppose it's not letters.
providing you are
Suppose-
the one providing the data.
Okay, suppose it's a design, which is not letters, okay? It's a design, it's a component of a product, okay? And I put it on possible ways, right? And it comes with one that's better than I would do. If I do it, I would do this object, right? I mean, this cup, right? If I make it myself, it would be this, right? But is there a better one? Probably there's a better cup that I can make, right? Again, it's a cup and it has some function behind it. So it's not exactly me, like I said, that I'm the one evaluating. There's just an objective side to it because it's a product, okay? So if the AI makes something better than me, somehow, is that still mine? Even though I'm the one who makes the judgment, or maybe all of you make the judgment. Who's the designer?
I feel like at first time you said, I made it, right?
Yeah, the one.
I don't think you made it,
Why not?
because the things that around you shaped you have to made it at first place. It doesn't matter if it's
That's I. That's the definition of I. The stuff that comes to me is I. The stuff that is not mine, which is basically something that's external to me, which is a machine, that's not me anymore. Unless you define that me as a reflection of me in that thing, or that thing actually is me in a kind of a copy of me that behaves like me.
Okay, I don't know if our guests want to say something, then I will.
But please go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I just want to say that this is perfect hermeneutic situation because you want to answer the question, you want to make a definition because the different readings. And based on slight change in the definition, the answer will be different. And if the definitions are sort of like axioms, you make them up, but given this definition, this answer is correct, and given this definition, another answer is correct. But they could be contradictory with one another. This is a perfect hermeneutic situation.
Just would like to add a little bit different aspects. In order to understand such kind of question and answers better, I think you can try at least once to train AI yourself. So I have students where we are doing training of tuning large language models for specific tasks. And this is very, very interesting thing. For instance, we are tuning model to better judge special kind of documents. So we grab standard AI tools and then doing additional sub-training and to understand how to help AI to answer better on specific question. there are very interesting procedures how we train AI.
Yes.
It's exactly how we split sentences, we filter out something which is irrelevant to the language. Then we do statistics, because AI is still statistics. How to build proper statistics to improve AI. This is very, very interesting stuff. Now there are lots of kind of tools and videos about how to train AI. And I think in order to properly understand AI, we also need to understand how to build it and what AI is. This goes beyond application, which we discussed, but how to make AI yourself.
Yes.
Not just in abstract concept, but in specific.
This is a very good point. You cannot understand AI if you don't really practice AI.
If you know how it works.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
You must know how it
Otherwise
works.
it's magic.
Yeah.
But as we saw, technology is indistinguishable from magic, right?
Question.
Yes, I have just like a question. Like
Alejandro.
maybe I want
Roboto.
to. Yes.
Roboto.
I mean, I would like to relate actually the concept of AI with other kind of example. Like for example, I think in artists, like
Art?
artists that produce, for example, music, you know.
Mm.
And there are some artists that they consume like certain, we can say drugs to activate their senses to produce a melody, no? We can say, for example, LSD or something that active your senses and you can see things.
Hallucination.
Hallucination, but sometimes active your senses visually or whatever, no? But in a certain way also that drug is made by humans, no? It's a synthetic something that is produced by humans. So I want to relate with, I want to make the comparison with AI because I don't know if this kind of drug that stimulates you is a tool or also a medium. It doesn't work like the same that AI, like for example maybe AI, it could be like a substance that you cannot consume, or maybe you consume but in a different way, not oral, not injecting or something, but you consume it with mentally, yes. And I don't know which is the difference between, because if the artist produced this song consuming LSD, for example, and he say, oh, I produced this song, but it was him or it was because this thing that he consumed. And then if I produce a song or something, because I took it from AI or whatever, I say the same, it was me or it was the AI or...
So here you are talking about who is the creator.
Yeah.
Or no, but the way that you use it is more like a substance instead of medium, or the medium could be a substance, you know,
Right.
like a kind of medicine
So
or
it
something.
happened to me. This is very interesting because when in a dream, usually I'm somewhere and the person that I'm looking is not really who it is. It changes faces and the background changes all the time. Right? When I'm in a dream, I don't know if you have the same dream with me, but as humans, a dream is something that is very vague. And it's like kind of like like even the neural network, it's basically misfiring, if you like. So there's not a specific. It's not like clear. It's kind of like vague. And also, when you wake up, you forget it. Right? So the fact that you remember certain things, they're that vague. Now, when I do a grok or whatever, some sort of a soda, and I put like some sort of a emotion that I have into it, so like this is my father who died a long time ago, and he's going to say something, right? And as I say, and he's moving somewhere. All of a sudden, the whole thing moves in a way that it's a dream, like almost I'm looking at the dream. Now, once I see it, and the dream that I have, I'm not sure which one is, and they both affect me. I'm not sure which one of the two is the real one. Because one is artificial, the other is mine. I made that dream through my neural network that is misfiring. There is a misfiring of a neuron that are external to me that it still affects me too. So the question is, later on, should I say I had a dream because I saw growth, or is it the dream that I had, my real dream is what's the one that I did? Which is exactly the problem you brought up.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think actually that maybe
LSD versus AI, right?
because you also mentioned in this conversation that the tool cannot be a tool, but you cannot control it, right? Sometimes you cannot control a dream.
No,
Because
it's
you cannot see
unpredictable.
clearly.
That's why it's so interesting.
And
I
AI
don't know
is
what it's going
also,
to do. Yeah.
And when you say like, AI make me this picture, but it doesn't like, you think it's gonna be this picture, you know, you cannot control also this picture because it's not controllable.
But that's why it attracts your attention, because it's not what you expect to see. right? In the same way a dream is like you would
But
expect.
let me go out from this analogy that you built. But I said many times during our lectures, take a tool like Midjourney, take a tool like DALL-E. The objects that these systems create come from their own latent space. But the latent space comes from the data set. And whatever these tools will, quotation marks, create is totally constrained by the data set. They cannot go beyond the data set. So I think, and trying to answer to Kostas, I think that at the very end, the mediation is in between the human intervention, the computational infrastructure, computational efficiency, computational power, right? And the model. And the outcome is an hybrid outcome in which you cannot identify using Husserl a specific intentionality. It's a composite intentionality.
Right.
But
So that makes
you are batting between the mouth. You are starting to say but.
Yeah, because if you said that your set is constrained by the set that you have, it means
Yes.
that what you're going to see is already predetermined from the maximum number of things that you have, right? But when you combine things together, like for example, when you morph,
Predetermined is not the right word.
yeah, okay, fine, but still, I mean, even in the case of morphing, right? In morphing, you have like a phase 1 and phase B, right? You have a parent A, parent B, and you combine them together, you get a child. That child is not in the data set, and yet it is a new entity that is being produced by the system within itself.
It's the latent state, and it's
Yeah,
the latent space.
I'm talking about morphing.
Yeah,
You all-
okay,
all
but
morphing.
it's always in the latent space, and the latent space is constructed by the data set.
But the
Don't
latent-
forget this.
Yeah, fine, but still, what I'm saying, you have entity A, entity B, and you combine them together, latently or non-latently, and you produce a new entity. That entity was not in the database. You're creating a new phase that didn't exist before. But then you expand, but then you contradict yourself, because there's nothing outside of the set. There is, you expand the set.
It's no, it's always inside the data set.
No, because
It's
you make a
always
new
inside
thing.
the data set.
Yeah, it's
Because-
inside in terms of the data. The molecules are inside, but the entity as an entity is a new entity, new thing, a new phase.
It's an entity that can be easily discovered by exploring the latent space. It's what AI artists do. You know it. I mean, artists just navigate through the. Sorry, you
I
want to
just
say?
want to, we could simplify this, I don't know if we have the time, but to simplify things a little bit. AI is a very complex thing, new, and we sort of fascinated and enchanted by it. But let's consider language as something that I would claim is exactly as what we call AI. Here we use the English language in order to communicate. None of the speakers have English as their native tongue. I don't know if there's anyone in this room
I don't think so.
English. Please raise your hand if English is your mother's tongue, right? Mother tongue.
No,
Ah,
I'm totally sure.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was wrong.
Out of how many? 40 people, right? So language, it's a repository of words. English, they say, well, 1 million words. It's a very rich language, one of the largest languages out there. And the rules of grammar, being the medium for communication, it still has some connections between words that would not let a person easily express their idea, right? Certain things are easier to say in your native tongue, not because you don't have complete mastery of English, but because languages, and writers tell you that is the case always, certain things are easier to say in one language than in another. Nabokov comes to mind. Nabokov, great American, British, Russian writer who wrote brilliantly in both Russian and English, and he would say that he writes a novel, he translated his own novels, and would say essentially he'll be writing a novel in different language and how certain things are easier to say in one language than another. But this is essentially, it's a language itself is a sort of large language model because all the possibilities
Yes.
of what you can say in this language are in what you would call in the latent space of the language, even though it doesn't exist as an entity, right? You don't need to admire AI to grasp this idea.
Yeah.
We lived with that for much longer than
There is
with
a-
AI, and we're perfectly comfortable with this.
There is a very famous, sorry.
I just want to say, when you say in English sentence, you don't ask the question, who said that sentence? I said that sentence, or English language said that sentence for
Right.
me? It makes no sense. That's all.
Put it in the context of, yeah, but then language is a
And
very,
there is a,
it's an expanding thing. So it's not a sin.
Margaret Boden made a very nice distinction. She said that there is
Margaret?
Margaret Boden, it's one of the big names as concerns computational creativity. She was my supervisor. Computational creativity. And she made this distinction between it didn't happen before and it could not have happened before.
What you say.
Yes, yes. And it didn't happen before doesn't mean that it could not have happened before. So what you are saying is that the latent space of languages, where languages are public institutions,
Okay.
intersubjective products, right?
Yes.
The latent space contains all that could have been said. This does imply that
It's not new.
exactly,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this way, I'm trying to answer as well to your to our previous discussion.
Expansion of the
Yes,
language.
yeah, correct. Okay, guys, it was fascinating. I enjoyed very much. I must thank our guest, our being here, Kostas, of course.
You can introduce.
My college classmates.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen him for over 30 years. I haven't seen him for 2 years? Oh, it was a couple of years ago.
Same you. Same
Nice to meet you.
No,
Same
no,
you.
no.
Yeah, because you're on university.
I'm from China, but
From
not
the
East
China.
China.
Okay, good. Was he a good student?
No, I was not, but your vote is better than I do.
The Chinese are always so humble.
No, I'm not.
The reason I'm here today is I just want to know that why a guy like him can contribute to society. Because when
I was too bad.
I came here in a cab, I told the driver that I have a classmate that contributing his knowledge, his ideas to this not perfect world. But I was good when I was young, but now I realize I didn't do anything to this world.
Which is good enough.
But
Which is good.
from you guys, I really, really appreciate your ideas.
I always say the important thing is not to harm others. This is the most important thing.
No animals has been harmed in the
process.
In the
Thank you,
process.
President.
It's very interesting, but I wish that more questions
Yeah.
were
Any
asked.
other question?
Yeah, but it seems too deep.
You want to answer something, you say it.
Here is a question.
Oh.
So, for these 2 years, we discussed a lot about AI because of the large language model or the image generation thing. But actually, AI is not a new concept. We already have, decision tree models in
Yes.
the 80s.
Expert
We have
systems.
some image lab a few years ago and AlphaGo. It's not something new. So do you think currently we are overreacting to the new AI models? What's your feeling, at 20 years ago when there were AlphaGo and something at that time?
Yeah. I did a PhD in Michigan, and at that time I was in the AI section, which has nothing to do with AI now. But back then it was more, of course, like in the logical area, or what we call expert systems, and I was in computer vision, that was my area. So you had to make sense out of pictures, and It was, one way was to do it through like the pixels, and the other was through what we call models like morphology, like things, like entities. So that was basically at that time what was going on. But at some point they produced this thing called the neural network, which was a big breakthrough because somehow the information was trapped inside these things. So it's not anymore the human making a inference decision, which was previously the way you would produce a logical or some sort of application. It was more, the machine actually took agency, was able to kind of take information in and somehow process this away that will produce something that actually was making sense. That's the first thing that happened. And then it became bigger and bigger, and it fed more and more parameters and more information. It started becoming like almost at the point of, as they said yesterday on the news, AGI, like it was actually almost close to human. And it's true, if you look at it, that's how it works. But I think at the end of the day, if you look into the experts in the field, including Chomsky, he says the same thing with you. It's like over-excitement. Basically, the whole thing is a plagiarism scheme, according to him. So there's this kind of like two things. One is very enthusiastic, and there's like, oh, come on, give me a break. I mean, we already know that, which is kind of like the old school. The ones who actually went through the whole process, they're like, okay, there's nothing new here. It's the same stuff. And the people who see it for the first time, they say like, oh my God, this is like amazing. So again, it's not, it's the same system, but it's different in precision with different generations.
But let's...
May I answer on this question in a little bit different way? Why it's so popular now? Because you're using this. So basically, maybe 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, it was mostly AI used for professionals for specific topics. Now everybody uses this, and this is why it becomes a huge topic, and this is why it really evolves. Because all of us now use
Last question, and then we close the session. To our quantum physicist. So we are talking about quantum AI, right? And as far as I know, most of the people is working in quantum AI by using a very traditional approach. Basically, they try to migrate traditional AI algorithms running on von Neumann machines from von Neumann machines to quantum machines. And this is one approach. But there is another approach. And I would like you to comment about this approach. Making use of the features of quantum mechanics, quantum computing, in order to produce, to generate real quantum algorithms.
Yeah, in fact, we are now doing to some extent this. If we compare classical computation, quantum computation, this is really a very different approach because we use different kind of objects. Computers use numbers, and quantum computers use matrices. This is why they are so powerful. Concerning to quantum AI, I think this is just emerging field. In fact, even now, nobody knows if quantum AI is better than classical or not. There are different approaches. One of the most popular approach is so-called reservoir computing, because it's extremely hard to train quantum system. We are fragile, we don't know what and how to train, and instead of doing this, with reservoir computing, we use a big filter which is not requiring any kind of training, and try to put information in such big quantum, not trained machine.
We are using the same approach.
Yeah, and then trying to read out of this, and this is quite promising. And now quite a lot of people working on this reservoir quantum computing, even in Loughborough we are working on this. This looks quite promising.
Very good, thank you, thank you. So, we thank our guest, Kostas, and the two Sergeys, all of them excellent, I would say. And thanks for being here. I hope you appreciated the conversation, the discussion. The people from my course, please stay here for a while, just a few minutes more, and the others can go. Thank you so much.